Many of the so-called healthy products and trends marketed to kids in the United States today are not truly healthy at all. In fact, they can be some of the most harmful influences on children's long-term well-being. Parents often believe they're making the right choices because the packaging looks trustworthy. The labels include buzzwords like organic, low-fat, or sugar-free, and advertisements show happy, energetic kids enjoying them. But beneath this clever marketing lies a disturbing truth. Many of these products are filled with artificial ingredients, preservatives, and chemicals that can disrupt children's growth, metabolism, and overall health. The modern food industry has mastered the art of using words like natural or healthy to disguise processed junk as nutrition. Walk down any grocery store aisle in America and you'll see shelves packed with snacks marketed as healthier options for kids, granola bars that are loaded with sugar, fruit snacks that contain almost no real fruit, and cereals that promise essential vitamins but are practically candy in disguise. Parents want to do what's best for their children, but they are being misled by a system that prioritizes profits over genuine health education. These healthy labels make it easy to assume that if a product says it's good for kids, it must be safe and beneficial. The reality is, most of these foods are ultra-processed and designed to hook kids on sweetness and artificial flavors from a young age, setting them up for cravings, overeating, and poor dietary habits that can last a lifetime. This problem extends beyond just food. Healthy drinks are another major trap. Many parents replace soda with fruit juice or flavored waters, believing they are making a better choice. However, most fruit juices on the market, even those labeled as 100% juice, contain as much sugar as soda and lack the fiber that whole fruits provide. Flavored waters and sports drinks, marketed as hydration boosters or vitamin-enriched beverages, often contain artificial sweeteners, dyes, and additives that can affect mood, digestion, and even attention span. Kids are taught early to equate these colorful, sweetened drinks with energy and health, when in reality they contribute to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and tooth decay. Then there are the diet and low-fat trends, which have done enormous damage to how Americans, especially young people, view nutrition. For years, low-fat foods were sold as the ultimate health solution. Parents began choosing low-fat yogurts, snacks, and dairy products for their children, assuming they were promoting better health. But when fat is removed, something has to replace it. And that something is almost always sugar, starch, or artificial flavoring. Fat, in the right form, is crucial for kids' brain development, hormone regulation, and absorption of vitamins. Removing it and replacing it with processed ingredients not only deprives children of necessary nutrients, but also teaches them to fear natural foods like butter, eggs, and nuts that are actually good for them when eaten in moderation. Beyond what kids eat and drink, another form of false health comes from the growing obsession with appearance over wellness. Social media platforms, where even young children are now active, constantly push images of fit influencers and unrealistic body standards. These images often promote supplements, detox teas, and healthy lifestyle products that have no real scientific backing. The message kids receive is that health equals being slim or having visible muscles, instead of being strong, energized, and mentally balanced. This is especially dangerous because it replaces genuine self-care with insecurity and comparison. Many children, especially teens, start dieting or skipping meals to look a certain way, believing they are getting healthy, when in fact they are harming their physical and emotional development. The false health narrative also seeps into schools. In many cafeterias across the United States, meals are still heavily processed, even though they meet so-called our nutritional standards. Pizza is labeled as a vegetable because of tomato sauce, and flavored milk filled with sugar is considered a good source of calcium. When these foods are served daily, they normalize processed eating habits and give children a distorted sense of what a healthy diet looks like. Meanwhile, fresh fruits, vegetables, and whole foods are often more expensive or less accessible, particularly in low-income communities. This inequality means that the very kids who need good nutrition the most are the ones most affected by misleading, healthy options that are cheap, convenient, and highly marketed. Marketing to children is a powerful and dangerous tool. Companies know that kids are impressionable and that parents are busy. Bright colors, cartoon characters, and phrases like good source of vitamins or boosts immunity make products appear safe and beneficial. Yet, these claims are often based on minimal or misleading science. A cereal fortified with synthetic vitamins doesn't become healthy if it's still packed with sugar. A snack with a few added minerals doesn't make up for the lack of real nutrition. The constant exposure to this kind of advertising shapes how children understand food. They grow up thinking that anything with a health claim must be good for them, when in fact it might be one of the worst things for their developing bodies. Even the wellness industry aimed at families has fallen into this trap. Fitness apps for kids, detox smoothies, and trendy superfoods often sound promising but focus more on aesthetics than true health. When health becomes commercialized and simplified into a marketing slogan, the real message gets lost. Kids need whole foods, time outdoors, sleep, emotional support, and movement, not expensive health fads or over-processed snacks pretending to be nutritious. The danger of these false health trends isn't just that they lead to obesity or poor nutrition. It's that they distort an entire generation's understanding of what being healthy actually means. Children are growing up in a culture that values appearance over well-being, convenience over nutrition, and marketing over science. And because of that, even well-meaning parents are unknowingly feeding into a system that prioritizes image over impact. Teaching kids to chase labels rather than learn the truth about their own body's real health is not about quick fixes, trendy diets, or perfectly portioned meals that look good on social media. It is about balance, a concept that seems simple but has become increasingly difficult to achieve, especially for kids growing up in the United States today. Balance in health means understanding that the body and mind are deeply connected, that food is both fuel and enjoyment, and that exercise, rest, and mental peace all play equal roles in keeping a person truly well. However, the modern lifestyle has made this balance harder to maintain. Kids are surrounded by extremes: extreme diets, extreme screen time, extreme academic pressure, and very little genuine moderation. The result is a generation that often feels tired, anxious, and confused about what healthy even means. In America's fast-paced culture, families are constantly looking for convenience. Busy schedules push parents toward pre-packaged lunches, drive-through dinners, and snacks that can be eaten on the go. While these foods are convenient, they often come with high levels of sodium, sugar, and preservatives. On the other hand, when parents try to fix these habits, they sometimes go too far in the opposite direction, cutting out entire food groups, forcing strict meal plans, or creating guilt around certain foods. True balance means understanding that kids don't need perfection, they need variety. A child who eats mostly nutritious meals but enjoys pizza night with family is healthier, both physically and emotionally, than a child who lives under constant dietary restriction. When we talk about balance, we are talking about sustainability. Healthy habits should be realistic and enjoyable so that kids can carry them into adulthood. Exercise is another area where balance is often lost. For many American children, physical activity has been replaced with screen time. Hours spent on phones, video games, or streaming platforms have taken away the natural movement that used to come from outdoor play. Yet, when parents or schools do encourage exercise, it is sometimes treated like a punishment or a competition instead of a fun, daily part of life. Real health means helping kids rediscover the joy of movement, not to lose weight or meet a fitness goal, but because their bodies are made to move. Balanced physical activity can be as simple as walking the dog, riding a bike, dancing, or playing sports with friends. When movement becomes enjoyable, it becomes consistent, and that consistency is what truly improves health. Mental and emotional balance are just as important, yet they are often overlooked. Many kids in the United States are under constant stress, from academic expectations, social media pressure, and the fast rhythm of daily life. A child might eat well and exercise, but if they are constantly anxious, sleep-deprived, or isolated, they are not truly healthy. Balance means making room for rest, hobbies, creativity, and connection. It means teaching kids that downtime is not laziness, but a vital part of staying well. Unfortunately, the message that success equals constant productivity has trickled down to children, making them feel guilty for taking a break. But rest is one of the most powerful tools for growth. It helps the brain process information, restores energy, and strengthens emotional resilience. Another key part of balance is understanding that health is not one size fits all. Every child's body is different. What works for one may not work for another, and that's okay. The problem in today's culture is that health advice often comes in the form of rigid rules. Eat this, not that, exercise this way, avoid all sugar, count every calorie. This approach teaches kids to fear food and obsess over rules instead of listening to their bodies. Real balance teaches self-awareness, knowing when you're hungry, when you're full, when you need rest, and when you need movement. When children learn to trust their bodies, they develop lifelong habits that support both physical and emotional wellness. The American education system also plays a role in how balance is understood. Schools emphasize academic achievement but often neglect lessons about nutrition, emotional regulation, or stress management. Physical education classes are shorter or less frequent than they were decades ago, and lunch breaks are often rushed. Kids learn how to solve equations and memorize historical dates but rarely learn how to create balanced meals or manage anxiety in healthy ways. Creating balance in education would mean giving equal attention to physical health, mental well-being, and intellectual growth, recognizing that a child who feels good in their body and mind will also perform better academically. Technology, while useful, has also made balance more complicated. Kids now have access to endless information about health, but not all of it is accurate. Online influencers promote diets, supplements, or fit challenges that promise fast results, and children absorb these messages without context. They begin to think that health must be extreme to be effective, that they must eat perfectly, look perfect, and work out constantly. This mindset leads to burnout and body dissatisfaction. Real balance comes from moderation, not obsession. It's about teaching kids that enjoying a dessert doesn't cancel out healthy habits, and missing a workout doesn't make them unhealthy. Family culture is another factor in achieving real health balance. In many American homes, meals are eaten separately or quickly, often in front of a screen. The traditional family dinner, where everyone sits down, eats together, and talks, has become rare. Yet, shared meals play a powerful role in developing balanced relationships with food and family. When parents model mindful eating, gratitude, and conversation, children learn that food is not just fuel but also connection. Balance in health includes emotional nourishment, not just physical. Economic and social pressures also make balance harder for many families. Healthy food options can be expensive, and working parents may not have the time to prepare fresh meals every day. This leads to guilt and frustration, creating an unhealthy emotional cycle around food and health choices. True balance acknowledges these challenges and encourages flexibility, doing the best you can with what you have, instead of striving for unrealistic perfection. Even small, consistent habits, like walking after dinner, drinking more water, or replacing one processed snack with a fresh option, can create lasting change when practiced regularly. Balance in health is ultimately about integration. It's not separating physical health from mental health or food from emotions. It's recognizing that everything we do, what we eat, how we move, how we think, and how we rest, works together to shape overall well-being. Teaching kids this perspective from an early age can help them grow into adults who are confident, mindful, and resilient. In the US, where extremes are often celebrated and moderation overlooked, learning to find that middle ground is one of the most valuable lessons a child can carry through life in today's world. Mental health has become just as important as physical health, especially for children growing up in the United States. Yet, despite more awareness than ever before, many kids still struggle silently under the weight of unrealistic expectations, constant digital pressure, and emotional neglect disguised as normal stress. The truth is, children are facing a mental health crisis that's often invisible because it hides behind good grades, smiling selfies, and busy schedules. Society talks about eating healthy and exercising, but rarely about managing anxiety, loneliness, or self-image. The modern idea of health often overlooks the mind completely, focusing only on outward signs of success, a fit body, a perfect appearance, or academic achievement, while ignoring what's happening inside. This disconnect between physical and emotional well-being is one of the biggest threats to children's true health today. One of the main reasons kids struggle with mental health is the constant exposure to unrealistic standards. Social media, advertising, and pop culture paint a picture of what kids should look like, how they should act, and what they should achieve by a certain age. From the moment they go online, they're bombarded with edited photos, perfect bodies, and influencers who seem to live flawless lives. Even younger children, who shouldn't be worrying about appearance or popularity, start comparing themselves to what they see on screens. This leads to feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, and in many cases, depression or anxiety. The problem is that kids are growing up believing their value depends on how they look or how many likes they get, not on who they truly are. For a developing mind, this constant comparison is toxic. It creates an impossible standard that no one, not even the influencers themselves, can maintain without filters and editing. Schools, which should be safe spaces for learning and growth, often add to the pressure. The American education system places heavy emphasis on performance, test scores, grades, extracurricular achievements, leaving little room for emotional learning or mental rest. Students are taught to compete rather than connect, to achieve rather than reflect. The result is a generation of kids who are overworked, underslept, and emotionally drained. Many children spend their days rushing from class to homework to activities, with little time for play or family connection. And when they do struggle, they often feel they have to hide it to avoid being labeled as lazy, weak, or dramatic. This silence around emotional pain can make it worse, turning ordinary stress into chronic anxiety or depression over time. Family dynamics also play a huge role in shaping mental health. In many American households, parents are stretched thin, juggling multiple jobs or responsibilities. While they may provide food, shelter, and education, emotional support sometimes takes a back seat, not because parents don't care, but because they are often overwhelmed themselves. When communication within a family breaks down, kids start to internalize their worries. They may feel isolated even while surrounded by people. Many parents tell their children to be strong or toughen up, thinking it builds resilience, but what it often does is teach kids to suppress their emotions. True resilience comes from understanding emotions, not ignoring them. When children aren't given the tools to process sadness, anger, or fear, those feelings build up inside and eventually express themselves in harmful ways, through withdrawal, aggression, eating disorders, or risky behaviors. Technology, while beneficial in many ways, has also become one of the biggest stressors for kids. The average American child spends hours each day scrolling, chatting, and consuming digital content. While these platforms connect people, they also create constant exposure to comparison and judgment. Cyberbullying, body shaming, and online peer pressure are common experiences for many kids today. What makes it worse is that the online world never sleeps. There's no escape from the constant flow of opinions and expectations. Children's brains, which are still developing, aren't built to handle this level of stimulation and judgment. The dopamine rush from likes and notifications becomes addictive, while negative comments or lack of attention can trigger intense feelings of rejection and worthlessness. The stigma around mental health also continues to be a major barrier. Even though society has made progress, many families still treat mental health issues as something shameful or exaggerated. Kids who struggle with anxiety or depression may hear dismissive phrases like, "You're just overthinking," or "You have nothing to be sad about." This invalidation can be devastating. It teaches children that their feelings don't matter or that seeking help is a sign of weakness. As a result, many suffer in silence, pretending to be fine while battling emotional exhaustion. Schools often lack the resources to address these issues effectively, and even when help is available, kids may be afraid to ask for it. In the US, where independence and self-reliance are praised, admitting emotional struggle can feel like failure. The pandemic years also amplified mental health struggles for kids across America. Isolation, disrupted routines, and fear of illness took a deep psychological toll. Many children developed anxiety about social situations, fear of the future, or difficulty returning to normal life. Even now, long after schools have reopened, the emotional effects linger. Increased rates of depression, attention issues, and self-harm among youth are clear signs that the mental health of children cannot be ignored. Yet, instead of slowing down to heal, society continues to push productivity, perfection, and performance, the very things that contributed to the crisis in the first place. Nutrition, sleep, and exercise all affect mental health too, and when kids live unbalanced lifestyles, their minds suffer. Lack of proper nutrition can lead to mood swings and difficulty concentrating. Sleep deprivation, which is common among students, affects memory, emotional regulation, and stress tolerance. Without enough physical activity, children lose a natural outlet for releasing tension and energy. True health recognizes that the brain needs fuel and rest just like the body. Teaching kids how to care for their mental health means showing them that eating well, moving their bodies, and sleeping enough are not chores. They are acts of self-respect. For many children, the greatest source of mental distress is the lack of connection. Despite being constantly connected online, they often feel lonelier than ever. Face-to-face conversations, shared laughter, and simple human moments are being replaced by emojis and text messages. Human connection is essential for mental well-being. It teaches empathy, builds trust, and gives children a sense of belonging. When that's missing, no amount of online interaction can fill the void. Kids need spaces, both at home and in school, where they can talk openly, express feelings without judgment, and be heard. America's culture of constant competition and comparison has made it difficult for kids to develop a healthy sense of self-worth. They are growing up in an environment where rest is seen as laziness, vulnerability as weakness, and perfection as the only goal worth chasing. This mindset damages mental health more than any single event or circumstance. It creates pressure that builds silently, shaping how children see themselves and their future. Real health, therefore, cannot exist without mental health. A body that looks fit on the outside means nothing if the mind inside is exhausted, anxious, or broken. Education plays one of the most important roles in shaping how children in the United States understand health. yet it is often the most neglected part of the conversation. When we talk about education, we usually think of reading, writing, math, and science, but rarely do we think of teaching kids how to take care of their bodies and minds in a realistic, sustainable way. Health education should be more than just a single class or a few lessons about nutrition and exercise. It should be an ongoing process that helps children develop lifelong habits of wellness. Unfortunately, the current approach in many American schools and homes focuses too much on short-term fixes and not enough on understanding. Kids are told what to eat, how to move, and what not to do, but they're rarely taught why these things matter or how to make balanced choices on their own. True education in health goes beyond memorizing food groups or gym exercises. It's about giving children the tools to make informed, confident decisions about their physical, emotional, and mental well-being. In many schools across the U.S., health education programs are outdated or limited. Some schools may teach basic nutrition, showing the traditional food pyramid, but they often fail to connect that information to real life habits. Kids might learn that fruits and vegetables are good for them, but they aren't taught how to prepare them, how to read food labels, or how to recognize misleading marketing. Without that practical understanding, health lessons stay theoretical, facts to be memorized and forgotten after a test. In a country where childhood obesity, diabetes, and anxiety are rising, this lack of real-world education has serious consequences. Children need more than just information, they need guidance in applying it to their everyday lives. They need to see health as something achievable and relevant, not as a list of restrictions or rules. Educating kids about health also means teaching them emotional intelligence. Physical health and mental health are deeply connected, yet most school curriculums separate the two. While students learn about anatomy and nutrition, they rarely learn how emotions affect eating, sleep, and motivation. Many kids grow up thinking that feelings like stress or sadness should be ignored rather than understood. If schools included lessons on mindfulness, coping strategies, and communication, children would develop better emotional resilience and self-awareness. They would understand that mental health is not just for people in crisis, but a part of everyday wellness. When kids learn how to manage emotions early, they are less likely to turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like overeating, isolation, or substance use later in life. Parents also play a critical role in health education. What children learn at home often shapes their attitudes more than what they hear in a classroom. When parents model balanced eating, regular movement, and emotional openness, kids are more likely to adopt those habits. However, many parents in the U.S. struggle with misinformation themselves. They are constantly exposed to conflicting advice online, new diets, miracle supplements, or strict rules about what's good and bad. This confusion trickles down to kids who receive mixed messages about health. One week sugar is the villain, the next week carbs are. Instead of clarity, children are left feeling uncertain about what's right for them. That's why education should not only focus on children, but also empower parents to understand the basics of nutrition, physical activity, and mental care. Health should be a family learning process where everyone grows together. Community programs and schools can bridge this gap by promoting hands-on learning. Instead of just teaching theory, schools could introduce cooking classes, gardening projects, or wellness workshops where kids actively engage with healthy practices. When children plant vegetables, prepare meals, or participate in group exercises, they form real connections to the concept of health. They see it as something fun and rewarding, not as a chore. These experiences stay with them far longer than any lecture. In many American communities, especially low-income areas, access to fresh food and safe recreation spaces is limited. Education can't fix inequality on its own, but it can teach kids how to make the best choices with the resources available to them. Knowledge gives power. It helps children recognize unhealthy patterns and develop creative ways to stay well even in challenging circumstances. Another key part of education is teaching kids critical thinking about the media they consume. Children in the U.S. are bombarded with advertisements that tell them what to eat, what to drink, and how to look. Fast food commercials, influencer promotions, and healthy snack ads are everywhere, shaping how kids define health from an early age. Without education, children accept these messages at face value. They believe that a brightly packaged fruit snack is equivalent to real fruit or that energy drinks are necessary to stay active. Teaching media literacy as part of health education helps children question these messages and make smarter decisions. They can learn to ask, who is selling this to me and why? Or, is this really good for my body? That kind of critical thinking builds independence and protects them from falling into harmful consumer traps disguised as wellness. Schools also need to address the connection between stress and learning. Academic pressure, lack of sleep, and social anxiety all affect a child's ability to perform and stay healthy. If health education included lessons on stress management, breathing exercises, and self-care, students would be better equipped to handle the demands of school life. This kind of education doesn't require fancy equipment or expensive programs. It requires time, empathy, and commitment. Even a few minutes each day dedicated to mindfulness or reflection can have a powerful impact on how children manage their emotions and energy. The way teachers and adults talk about health matters too. If the focus is always on weight loss or appearance, kids begin to associate health with how they look instead of how they feel. Instead, educators and parents should emphasize strength, energy, confidence, and well-being. Children should learn that eating well and staying active are about feeling good, not fitting into a certain image. In America, where body image pressure is strong and diet culture is widespread, shifting this narrative is essential. Health education should build self-esteem, not shame. It should teach kids to celebrate what their bodies can do rather than criticize how they look. Finally, education should be continuous, not a one-time lesson. Health evolves as kids grow and their needs change with age. Schools should integrate health education at every stage, from early childhood through high school, adapting it to developmental levels. Younger children can learn through play and storytelling, while teens can explore topics like mental health, relationships, and social media awareness. Consistent education ensures that health becomes a natural part of life, not just another subject to pass. When health is woven into daily learning, it stops being something kids think about only when there's a problem and becomes something they practice instinctively as part of who they are. When we look at all of this together, it becomes clear that real health for kids in the United States cannot come from products, trends, or appearances. It must come from understanding. Education is the foundation that allows children to make sense of their bodies, their emotions, and the world around them. When kids are taught how to think critically about health, rather than just follow rules, they become empowered to care for themselves in lasting, meaningful ways. Schools, families, and communities must work together to build an environment where learning about wellness is as natural and important as learning to read or write. Because when children grow up understanding that health is not a competition or a marketing slogan, but a lifelong journey of balance, care, and awareness, we give them something far greater than temporary fitness or appearance. We give them the knowledge and confidence to live strong, happy, and healthy lives.